Hi, welcome. This mini lecture is on honoring the client's resistance, and it's meant to be watched prior to our third class. So the purpose of this mini lecture is to define and discuss resistance and also how we work with resistance to effectively serve our clients. Resistance to therapy is based in a coping strategy that once was adaptive or protective. Our job is to guide the client to realizing this mechanism is no longer necessary or is only necessary in very specific circumstances. And these circumstances really would be very specific. It might be something like a physical threat or a certain social or professional situation where you need to bite your tongue in order to keep your job, something like that. So we always want to be tracking the therapeutic relationship to ensure that we don't engage in the problematic pattern with the client. So generally speaking, we see resistance as clients halting or avoiding treatment. It might look like them not showing up to sessions, being late to session, saying something like, I don't have anything to talk about here. But as always, we really want to consider the client's reality and put this in context. Are they taking public transportation to session? Is their boss letting them out of work late every day? Is it culturally appropriate, or is it expected in their culture that they might be late to meetings? So we want to inquire about these things with our clients. So resistance is activated by primarily a feeling of shame, the sense that you can't ask for or don't deserve help, that asking for help is admitting there's a problem, that you'll be perceived as needy, that it'll be humiliating, I'll lose my independence, my way of doing things. And at the crux of this is a feeling of vulnerability. And of course, vulnerability is really uncomfortable. So we can see why our clients would be resistant in this way. So again, the primary source of resistance is shame. And shame is multi-layered, really sensitive, and different, of course, from the kind of everyday embarrassment or self-consciousness that we all experience out in the world. Shame is all encompassing and can lead to a really deep sense of a deep negative sense of one's whole being. And so sitting with someone who's experiencing shame in this way can be really uncomfortable for the therapist. And that discomfort can lead the therapist to feel inadequate. And then that feeling of inadequacy can evoke feelings of shame for the therapist. So something we always want to be mindful of and checking in with ourselves about. So some presentations of shame, some ways you might see shame in your clients. Important to note that some things on this list having to do with harm to self or others, suicidal ideation, things like that, of course, require very specific and acute treatment. And so we always want to be focusing it's always in the background, in the back of our mind. We want to be assessing our clients in every interaction we have with them. So it's important here to discuss the difference between shame and guilt. Guilt is I did bad, shame is I am bad. And with guilt, it's easier to imagine possible resolve or relief, maybe through an apology or other reparations. We can tell ourselves or each other that I was in a bad place when I did that. We all make mistakes, things like that. But it's much more complicated to resolve a deep sense of something being wrong with who you are. It's really painful. So we always want to bring resistance into the room. We never want to ignore or avoid a discussion around resistance. We do this with genuine curiosity. We want to normalize that therapy can bring up uncomfortable thoughts or feelings. And we do this the way we do a lot of things in psychotherapy, with open-ended questions about what's going on between us in the therapeutic relationship. We do this with no judgment, no criticism, and we ask for feedback in a safe way. And then when we get the feedback, we need to receive it in a non-defensive way. So we might ask our clients, what's it been like to talk today? Did anything feel uncomfortable? And in doing this, our client is seen. And though it seems overly simplistic to say it in this way, it's actually really profound. We're meeting a very basic emotional human need. And we are modeling secure attachment, which is something that so many of our clients didn't get as children. So, as always, we're creating new ways of being in a relationship and encouraging our clients to take that out into their life. So, our goals in addressing resistance to be collaborative, open, curious, and as always, we want to emphasize process, not content. Sometimes our clients can be really guarded and we need to be a bit more directive. So when we're going to be directive in this way, we would tentatively inquire about what we think might be going on. Now, this would be a last resort. We would only do this when the other approaches don't work. And the reason this would be a last resort is because this is based on our interpretation as therapists. This is based on our thoughts and feelings, not the thoughts and feelings of the client. And we always want to be focused on what's going on for the client, not bringing them into our interpretation. So, what might be viewed as a cultural difference is really central to who we are, to our identity. And we don't want to shy away from this. We want to be direct but sensitive in discussing this with our clients. We want to be open. Of course, we want to listen. And we want to enlist the client's help in exploring this. We want to be curious about the client's experience in the world. It's their job to tell us what their experience is, but it's our job to be open to hearing that and also to educate ourselves on why that may have been their experience. So sometimes in this process, and sometimes just out of the blue, our clients will ask us questions about ourselves, about our identity. And self-disclosure is a tricky thing for therapists. We all approach it a little differently. We may approach it differently with different clients or in different sessions. We're needing to gauge and re-gauge this often. So we want to navigate it really carefully. We want to ask ourselves, why am I disclosing? Will it help the client? Might it harm the client? Is it for me? Will I benefit? For some reason, do I need to say this? Or is it for them? Is it for the client or for the therapeutic relationship? And sometimes a question is just a question. It's just small talk or filling the silence. But often it's an opportunity to uncover what's really going on for the client or what's really going on in the therapeutic relationship. So here's some examples of questions that I've been asked a bunch of times. And we always want to respond to this by dropping in, as we always do, dropping into the process, not the content. And the way in which I do this is by responding, no surprise here, with an open-ended question. I might say something like, I'm curious why you're wondering about this. And what I find is that what the client is actually saying is, have you ever worked with someone like me? Do you want to work with someone like me? Can you? Are you prepared to? And can you help me? Can you help me with the pain and the discomfort that I'm feeling? And so we do this, we encourage change with a 4-step sequence. First, we want to identify the outdated coping strategy and where it has existed in the client's life. Then we want to validate and honor the coping strategy. We also want to affirm the original place where this coping strategy came from. We want to affirm how it was born into the client's life. So for instance, in childhood, we may say, this is something that you had to learn. This protected you. This served you in some way. We want to track the process and ensure the therapeutic relationship doesn't repeat the problematic pattern. And I find that by just telling my clients that I will be responsible for tracking that can be really comforting. By just saying, this is my job. If it doesn't go as we expected, I will let you know in a safe way, and we can discuss it in a safe way. And that can be really grounding. And the ultimate goal is to help clients transfer these new ways of being in a relationship into their lives and into the world. So to some extent, we're going to see resistance with all of our clients. And the goal is to honor it, to talk about it, really bring it into the room. And this will allow us to continue providing new types of relational patterns for our clients that they can then take out into the world. And in order to do this effectively, we need to track our own processes, and this will allow us to engage authentically with our clients. So some ways of doing this, we need to be mindful of our own shame-based feelings, our own outdated coping strategies. Where might we have been resistant? So being aware of all this will help ground you as you start to really dig into this with your clients. So the most important intervention, of course, in beginning sessions, presence, empathy, and respect. If anything in this mini lecture needs to be clarified, please don't hesitate to let me know. I look forward to seeing you in class. Thanks for watching.